the countless parents that you support and empower every single day. It's their friends and family. It's the lawmakers they meet with, the children in classrooms where they speak, and the thousands of new families SMVLC has been able to help because of your choices and your actions. You did not just create a parent support network. You created and sustained a movement with your kindness and your refusal to give up. You made the world a better and safer place, and you did it in a way that will continue to give no matter what happens next. So, for these reasons and so many others, no one is more deserving of tonight's honor and the title Humanitarians of the Year than the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. I'm raising the alarm again. While everyone's busy being dazzled by Meghan's endless PR stunts and self-congratulatory nonsense, the real manipulation is happening right under everyone's noses. Before we dive in, please go ahead and hit that like button and make sure you're still subscribed. You know how it goes. Channels like this one get mysteriously unsubscribed all the time. It's no secret Harry and Meghan's PR machine doesn't like what's being said here. And I truly believe they're terrified more people will figure out what they've been doing and continue to do right here in the United States. All right, let's not waste another second and jump right in. Last night, the insufferable duo Harry and Meghan descended on my city, New York, dragging their dark cloud of hypocrisy with them. They turned up at the globalist-backed nonprofit called Project Healthy Minds. Yes, the same kind of quote-unquote mental health operation conveniently supported by members of the World Economic Forum. These two opportunistic grifters showed up to collect yet another hollow pay-to-play award, this time labeled as Humanitarians of the Year. And of course, it comes right on the heels of Meghan's grotesque, attention-hungry PR circus in Paris. But let's say the quiet part out loud. Harry's body language says it all. The man looks absolutely miserable, and frankly, who could blame him? It looks like he has hit his limit pretending in this empty, toxic marriage. Meghan Markle has not only humiliated her husband on the world stage, she's desecrated the one thing that was supposed to be sacred, and that is Harry's mom's legacy. Now let's take a look at the footage of their red carpet moments, because it's every bit as cringe as one could expect. And what you're going to notice here in these videos is that Harry refuses to look at Meghan, and Meghan knows she's getting the cold shoulder, and she deserves it. You know, there's a man who's had enough, and Meghan recognizes that it pretty much is over for her. And, you know, where they go from here is our guess. My guess is Harry's going back home, and Meghan is moving into the political sphere, and we'll get to that a little later. Like I said, you can put lipstick on a swine, but at the end of the day, it's still a dirty swine. And when you see Meghan Markle, regardless of how much she tries to portray that she is some humanitarian and kind person, there's nothing but bad energy that oozes from this woman. There's so much evil energy that is coming from her. Even in her photos, there is this demonic presence around Meghan. Well, you don't see this kind of presence around Catherine, but you see it with Meghan. And this is a perfect example of how ugly and dark this woman is. And I'm not going to say I feel bad for Harry, because like attracts like, and he made his bed, now he needs to lie in it and deal with it. His choices are the result of what we're seeing here. You want to be ugly and nasty and spiteful? Well, you end up with a woman who's ugly, nasty, and spiteful. And there you have it. This is not like rocket science. It's a law of attraction. Like attracts like. And here he is with probably the most evil, corrupted woman on the planet. Harry deserves what he gets. Especially since he has zero remorse for the things that he has done. And the same thing with Meghan. You can totally see how being such a horrible person inside is showing on her outside. She looks absolutely horrible. What we are witnessing here is like rebrand 5741. Meghan is desperately trying to come across now as serious. Now, it does appear that gone of the last 7 years dealing with that maniacal, crazy smile, trading it for this bitter, angry, hardened look. Is that intentional? I mean, we saw this in Paris. She looked like she was trying to be a model. Now here, she's trying to look like she's some serious grown-up. The energy between Harry and Meghan last night looked really off. He absolutely is done with her. You can see that in the body language, and you can see how he doesn't react to her, and she knows it. And you can see it right here. Meghan knows she's getting the cold shoulder from Harry, and that's the worst thing that you can do to an arc. And the way that she self-soothes herself, you can see she always bites her lip. It shows clearly that she's uncomfortable and she's pissed. She's pissed that she's not getting that attention and fuel from Harry. You can see the irritation in her rapid blinking. And I hope that while she was standing there for just those brief moments that she was squirming and super uncomfortable. You see, Meghan's brain is wired in a very different and dangerous way. And it's why she's able to compartmentalize her bad behavior and act as if nothing is wrong. And right now, she's thinking that she has to get through this acceptance speech because it's laying the groundwork for ultimately what I've said from the very beginning, that this woman is being backed and supported by these dark forces that are going to place her somewhere in the political sphere. Let's go through this acceptance speech and you'll see what I mean.
Our children, Archie and Lily, are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it? Luckily, still too young for social media, but we know that day is coming.
How much do you want to bet that Harry and Meghan give those 2 invisible children iPads to keep them occupied? And I'm pretty sure Meghan is subjecting Archie to Netflix's woke trans ideology in this subliminal propaganda that they're forcing onto the children.
Of course. Morgan, can you switch,
Nightshade's pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
My apologies. Please switch their piece. Now, the plan.
And like so many parents, we think constantly about how to embrace technology's benefits while safeguarding against its dangers. And that hopeful intention of separation is rapidly becoming impossible.
Says the couple who have launched a military-grade censorship operation onto unsuspecting people, innocent people. Now, I want people to remember that it was 2 years ago, March of 2023 to be exact, where the Twitter files exposed the censorship industrial complex, of which Prince Harry had been named since he was a part of the Aspen Institute Commission on Information Disorder. It was then, later on in October of 2023, we saw Harry and Meghan do this hard pivot, along with the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, on the mental health and the damage that social media is causing and why we need all these guardrails. Like, they really think people are stupid. Well, actually, people are not paying attention. People are not paying attention to the agenda that Harry and Meghan have had from day one when they showed up here in the United States in 2020. Which I keep saying that Megxit was a lie.
2 years ago, we first spoke publicly about the work we've been doing with parents around social media's devastating impact on their children. There was no better place to share this than on World Mental Health Day with Project Healthy Minds. Their dedication to expanding access to mental health support is exactly what we aim to do by building this community called the Parents Network.
And now what you're going to see Meghan do is starting to rewrite history, making it sound like the children were their focus this whole entire time, which is an outright lie.
We launched this program a year prior, after we had been tracking the effects of online harms more broadly in 2020. We were doing the research, we were meeting with experts at Stanford who had been trying to be heard on the findings that they knew were troubling and that would only worsen.
No, you're not going to rewrite history here in 2020. Let's go back because we see you. We know that you're trying to cover up your involvement with the Biden regime. You were at Stanford. You were with Renee DeResta. You were with Safiya Noble. You were with Rashad Robinson. All people involved with this complex that had been exposed. In addition, Prince Harry's dark money being funneled to various left-wing extremist groups like Color of Change, like Moms Rising, like Free Press, all connected and having ties to this leftist radicalism that we're seeing in our cities across this country. So Harry, Meghan, don't pretend like, oh, it was always the kids, because you know that that's not true.
I think we know that this is not just a story about violence and chaos, as you alluded to, Mr. President. This is a money story. And at the Government Accountability Institute, my colleague and I, Peter Schweitzer and our team, we followed the money, and we followed it to the top of what we call the protest industrial complex, Riot Inc. And we found a network of NGOs. It's not just the Soros network, the Open Society network, it's other funding networks, the Arabella funding network, the Tides funding network, Neville Roy Singham and his network, Foreign Cash. And it's also big left-wing funders. Some of them are not citizens of this country. Mr. Hans-Jörg Wyss of Switzerland. They're pouring money into this entire ecosystem. And so I want to share 3 money facts with you about what we call Riot Inc. Number one, like any corporation, Riot Inc. has many divisions. It doesn't just have the Antifa boots on the ground division. It has PR divisions. It has marketing divisions. It has a very well-funded legal division to get these boots on the ground back on the streets as quickly as possible. But it does have those investors that I mentioned. Number two, we have identified dozens of radical organizations, not just the decentralized Antifa organizations, but dozens of radical organizations that have received more than $100 million from the Riot Inc. investors. These would be the lawyer groups. These would be the groups that advocate for calling good, honest Americans fascists, et cetera. And then 3, I think the most shocking thing is that we have found that more than $100 million in U.S. taxpayer funding has flowed into these funding networks, including at least $4 million to these very groups themselves, not just Antifa types, but there was an event in Atlanta called Stop Cop City. Over 60 rioters were charged with domestic terrorism. These groups received money for that from both the billionaire class as well as taxpayer money. So one other thing, this money helps fund the decentralized crowdfunding platforms. These are ways that Antifa, the John Brown Gun Club of Elm Fork, which had links to that attack on the ICE facility, the Socialist Rifle Association, and just because they don't have LLCs or EIN numbers doesn't mean they can't get paid. Some of these funding platforms, crowdfunding platforms, are funded by this network that we call Riot Inc. So again, I want to thank you for your leadership, for the whole cabinet's leadership on this. We're going to keep following the money and appreciate everything you're doing, sir.
Do you know the name of any of the funders? Do you know the names? Because if you do, I'd like you to give them to Cash or Pam.
Absolutely.
Or Christy.
Yeah, we'll do that.
As soon as you can. That's all of you. Because you probably know the names after a certain period of time. You tend to find out. But these are people that do not have good intention for the country, and that's treasonous probably. So if you could, very important, if you could do that, it would be great. Nobody would know better than you. You'll figure it out. Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Now, I would like to point out that the Harkles are giving more and more money away to overseas causes, thus being able to hide the organizations that they're giving money to. Now, the reason why this is important is because, 1, there's a lack of transparency, and 2, what we're seeing going on across all Western countries is not by accident. We see all these protests happening at the same time, as well as these organized riots. So if we have a network here that's set up to specifically do just that with this leftist Antifa radicalism, don't think that the same setup is not happening across all the rest of these Western countries. The EU and the UK all have the same NGO setup. to where they are siphoning taxpayer money in these manufactured humanitarian crises that they have caused, from climate change to migration to censorship. All of these causes Harry and Meghan have been a part of in this so-called charity network. It's not charity or humanitarianism, it's philanthrocapitalism, to where they are redistributing our wealth. Well, not so much anymore here in the United States, but definitely in the UK and EU, hence the reason why we're seeing this breakdown and wealth gap getting astronomically worse. It's because of these globalist parasites. At the end of the day, this is all about power and control. And it's why the only thing that Harry and Meghan have been consistent with, if you notice, is this mission to tear down freedom of speech. And the only thing that's standing in the way from utter control of the internet and information is the First Amendment.
And our work continued for years quietly, and then in 2023 we connected with the Social Media Victims Law Center.
Of course they were quiet. They were behind the scenes colluding with the Biden regime in getting people censored and voices shut down. Meghan, don't play like you've been behind the scenes working and caring for children. You've been working, trying to shut us all up. We've got the receipts. Before it was exposed that Harry was a part of this censorship industrial complex, I kept thinking, why would Aspen put him on this commission on information disorder when he and his bitch wife are the biggest super spreaders of disinformation? And that's not information that is oopsie by accident. It's harmful misinformation that has been purposely put out there to not only gaslight, but to sow division and also cause heartache and pain. I specifically remember we were all scratching our heads as to why would you have the world's biggest super spreader of disinformation on your team? And the answer is simple. After the Twitter files exposed this censorship complex, all the names of the people that Harry and Meghan had been working with from the time that they landed here in America were listed not only in the lawsuits, but also in the U.S. congressional hearings, as well as the oversight weaponization reports. Those names, like Renee DiResta, Jory Craig, Kate Starbird, Safiya Noble, and many more, where Harry and Meghan had alignment. This is why Aspen allowed Harry to be on that commission. This is why Katie Couric can sit up there at South by Southwest and ask Meghan to tell her story about when she was 11 years old and why they are sitting there with Project Healthy Minds and Katie Couric again, as well as other players who now have shifted and positioned to focus on the children, to continue in rebuilding the online space, in controlling the information to influence people's behavior.
We met with a group of American families whose lives were forever changed by the online harms that ultimately created the tragic fates of their children. And in that first gathering, it was clear that for all of these families, meeting others who had endured a similar experience was comforting, but more than that, it was unifying. We felt the collective strength of this community coming together to heal and feeling compelled to act in a much more public way, which is what we began to do. Together we can and we will build a movement that all families and all children deserve. We know that when parents come together, when communities unite, waves are made.
And this is the power of language. Everything that Meghan is saying on the surface sounds wonderful and lovely. This is exactly how Obama convinced the masses to vote for him. Obama was very good at selling this picture of unification when all he did was sow discourse, the same thing that Meghan has been doing these past 5 years. You see, the thing that's so repulsive about not only Meghan and Harry, but all of these globalists who have these foundations pretending to do good in the world is their continued exploitation of the vulnerable. Here you have this vampire, Meghan Markle, who enjoys exploiting the suffering as well as, quite frankly, the dead. And anyone who is supporting this woman, they are just as bad as these two. Because how could you not see, after 7 years of constant F-ups and lying to the public, as well as showing your true colors of being a bully, people don't get the hint that this woman is not a good person. And I believe it's because they already know But they're going along with it because Meghan gets eyes. Meghan is seen globally. And it's all because she married a member of the British royal family. It has nothing to do with people wanting to see her. Even though Harry has been a complete douchebag in the United States, there's still these superficial people in Hollywood and the uber elite who would do anything to rub shoulders with a member of the British royal family, even if it is the spare.
We've seen it happen, and we're watching it grow. And with your support, we'll continue building a safer digital world for all of our children.
And let's just say it's not gone unnoticed that Marcus Anderson is sitting with Meghan at this event, which tells you only one thing, that Marcus, even though we know that he has been there with Meghan from the very beginning, is more than just her so-called friend. And I'm not talking about sexually. I mean, maybe there's something going on there with the three of them. But I think Marcus is the handler behind whoever the shadowy forces that have created this monster. And what we have seen now a couple of times is Marcus showing up to these various events where it starts to cross into the political spectrum. Everyone knows that South by Southwest is a breeding ground for CIA recruiting. So seeing Marcus there and Meghan and all the people that Meghan is aligned with that are tied to the CIA, I think we can all draw our conclusions. I mean, I've been saying this for a while now. And there is a political plan for this irritating woman. And that's why next week, the Meghan show continues with her being a speaker at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit. Yeah, you read that right. So you got to question what is really going on here. Why are they putting her in these various speaking engagements to give her this visibility? And the only reason why I think this is happening is because they are staging her now to move into politics. And that to me is a scary thing. Meghan Markle is probably one of the most dangerous. She's not the most influential or powerful. She is one of the most dangerous because of her antisocial behavior and her ability to pathologically lie under a tremendous amount of stress. It is breathtaking to watch at times. Meghan has the same characteristics of that of a Hillary Clinton and that of like a Kamala Harris. The trait that we see is this ability to lie and constantly gaslight the public. It's so hypocritical and it's a lot of projection. Meghan Markle and Hillary Clinton have that down packed with their projection. Everything that they are accusing the other side of doing, they are doing themselves. It seems like the left, all void of any type of morality, have no problem deceiving and manipulating the public if the ends justifies the means. Now, the one thing that we can credit Meghan Markle for is opening all our eyes to the corruption and the deceit, not only with the charities, but also with the media. And clearly, Harry and Meghan do have the media on their side, and that's why this shit will continue. And as long as the leftist media outlets are still in existence, because they have the domination here in the United States, no one's going to talk about this other stuff and how these two have literally been undermining our civil rights. And that's the story of the century, in my opinion. And I believe this is why none of the media outlets want to touch it, because they equally have played a part in it. And at the top of that list, you have People magazine, who pushes propaganda for not just Harry and Meghan, but the rest of the royals. And here we have this headline where Meghan to join Kamala Harris, Selena Gomez, and more at Fortune's Most Powerful Women Summit. People magazine is not doing Selena Gomez any favors by classifying Meghan Markle in this group of most powerful women. Like, I can understand Kamala Harris, and she was vice president, but by adding Meghan Markle to this equation, it just makes it look not serious. You know what I mean? You got to give Meghan Markle's PR teams, plural, credit here with what they're working with. I mean, they really are trying to polish this turd, and they're doing their best. And next week's summit, the way that they're marketing Meghan's unpopularity is calling it next level influence. Yeah, you read that right. Next level influence, a conversation with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And in its description, it says, earlier this year, the Duchess of Sussex launched As Ever, Whatever, a brand inspired by her love of cooking and entertaining. She has also been involved in a number of Netflix shows, including her recent lifestyle series, With Love, Meghan, and launched podcasts. She joins us to discuss the opportunities and challenges of life as a high-profile, highly scrutinized founder, as well as how she plans to leverage her significant influence to build a successful, long-lasting business empire. When money is no object, Meghan can pretty much say that she is like the one who cured cancer if she wants to. And I think that we're heading to that next. Now you can understand why all of these loser globalists want to control the online space. It's because they can't control their narratives anymore because there are too many of us who are calling out the bullshit. You'll never see these two scumbags, Harry and Meghan, ever have open dialogue about their so-called truth. They would rather silence and censor all of us than expose themselves as the frauds that they are. You see, what these two stupid people don't understand is it's not going to win them any favors. So all of this effort to rebrand and get the public to see them in this different light is all for nothing. Doesn't change a thing. There's still going to be people like me speaking out on their bad behavior. And this is why Harry is so gung-ho to get laws passed here in the United States, because if he could have us locked up, he would. Now, the final topic that I want to talk about in this video is another People magazine article that was released in the flood of media that Harry and Meghan put out yesterday. And that is this headline stating Meghan Markle and Prince Harry announce major new partnership to protect kids from AI and online dangers exclusive. So this is the bandwagon that Meghan and Harry are on right now in order to drive legislation that we are seeing pass through the Senate at this moment. But this couple is going further, which I said after they were exposed in the censorship complex at the federal level, that these two assholes were going to go attack it at the state level. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. And they're doing it with Baroness Bevan Kidron, who is part of UK Parliament. Not only did she have a heavy hand in getting that online safety bill passed, she also is the CEO of Five Rights Foundation, which is partnered and aligned with Harry and Meghan and their Fugazi public charity Parents Network. I don't understand how we're allowing this in the United States, to have this foreign interference in affecting our legislation and our governance in this country, but it's happening. And I think it's important that we raise awareness to stopping it. Like this woman, Baroness Kidron, have no business here in the United States influencing governance and regulation because they represent the crown. They're not registered under federal law, so why aren't they being held accountable for that? That's what I want to know. Harry has been in the United States to push policy, and that has never been more clear than in this speech that he delivered today.
Now, the past 5 years have taught us painfully that crises rarely arrive in isolation. The global pandemic stripped away the ordinary scaffolding of life and brought a measurable surge in anxiety, depression, and loss of connection. War and displacement, from Ukraine to Gaza, Sudan to DRC, and many places in between, have created waves of trauma for those defending their countries and their way of life, for civilians, for families forced to flee.
And Harry, who benefits from all these crises? Is it not you guys? Is it not the globalists who have been pocketing our money whenever these man-made crises come up?
Climate disasters have translated into eco-anxiety and psychological upheaval as extreme weather uproots communities and destabilizes lives.
The fear-mongering is off the charts. Everything with Harry is so doom and gloom. Here he is preaching about climate crises, while he is one of the contributors to destroying the environment with his carbon footprint. So what business does he have standing up there to lecture everybody about how depressed everyone is because of the fear and uncertainty when it's these assholes who have been the ones ruining the planet this whole entire time? Like, take some accountability.
Our digital world has fundamentally changed how we experience reality. Young people exposed to relentless comparison, harassment, misinformation, and an attention economy designed to keep us scrolling at the expense of sleep and real human contact.
And this is what I mean about projection. Everything that this guy has listed off, he and his bitch wife have been guilty of doing. Spreading misinformation, disinformation, putting countless amount of false articles out there, being an attention whore, literally, in clogging up the media space. Sounds like to me it's really Harry and Meghan who are the problem. And I think a simple solution to fixing this problem is not giving them any more opportunity to be on stage to not only gaslight the public, but also to manipulate everybody into thinking they're something that they're not. And they are the ones who are messing with so many people's minds in this deception. It's harmful.
And, of course, economic instability, from cost of living shocks to inflation, has produced constant, corrosive stress for hundreds of millions. These are not separate problems for separate people. They are interlocking injuries to our global community.
Absolutely insufferable. Geez, what does this guy understand about financial hardships when he is not a part of any of these communities experiencing it? This is a man who lives in a mega mansion and flies private jets all around the world while his bitch wife wastes tons of money on ugly designer clothing. What could he possibly understand people are going through mentally if he hasn't been there himself? Like, how dare he talk about the stresses that come from financial burden when he was the one who was directly responsible for taking away so many people's right to earn, like Yankee Wally, like myself, and many others. All of this is empty words because ultimately what he's trying to get at is trying to affect and change policy.
Mental health is shaped by public health, foreign policy, climate policy, corporate design, and economic choices. Too often, decisions made by a few powerful actors ripple across the planet into every aspect of our lives.
And that right there was a shot at Donald Trump. I don't know if you caught that, but it sounds like Harry is really pissed about two important things that were done here in the United States, and this is a direct shot at Donald Trump. When we talk about foreign policy and we talk about climate, those are two areas that Donald Trump had made significant changes when it comes to our tax dollars, like cutting off U.S. aid and not buying into this stupid climate scam where he and the rest of these globalists have been making money hand over fist. Go fuck yourself, Harry. We're not giving you any more money.
Now, we work with and listen to parents who've lost their children to online harm, Afghan women who've rebuilt their lives far from home, communities healing after unthinkable tragedy, young people learning to navigate a digital world that wasn't designed with their well-being in mind. This is what we've discovered. Maintaining good mental health isn't just an individual challenge, it is a community responsibility. Approached this way, everybody wins.
I agree with Harry. However, Harry's community is not a community that I want to be a part of. Many people don't want to adopt this ideological thinking. That is not Christian-like. That is not God-like.
That's what today's about. The conversations you'll be part of about childhood and technology, about resilience and crisis, about the pressures of influence and the power of movement. They're all connected by this same thread.
My husband's gonna sit this one out. You just got me. How's everybody doing today? Well, we are so thrilled to be here to support, of course, what is happening in this space and on this very important day with Project Healthy Minds. So for this next panel, we're going to turn to one of the most urgent questions facing families today. What's happening to childhood? And how and what do we do to allow our children to just be children?
Oh, that's rich. Coming from a woman who won't let her children out of the attic. Oh, I see what she's doing here. She's trying to be Catherine.
3 years ago, we had met with families whose worlds had been absolutely shattered. Parents who had lost children to social media-driven suicide, Others who had lost so many of their children to struggles with depression, anxiety, self-harm, all inflicted by online harms. And you heard some of that in the first panel with Katie, who we met 3 years ago with her mom. And just so proud of you, Katie, if you can hear me backstage, and how far she's come. It's incredible. So in this sit-down that we had a few years ago, what began as individual tragedies became the foundation for the Parents Network. Now, this was a community that grew from a small pilot in November of 2022.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say the chances of this being a bullshit story is pretty high. Because what happened at the end of October? Elon Musk bought over Twitter, and Meghan and Harry and Boozy and Sarah Data and all of the Sussex squad who had access to many people internally at Twitter no longer had that access because shit was hitting the fan, especially with the Twitter files starting to drum up attention.
To a global support system serving families across 3 countries by August 2024. What we learned in these moments is that these parents, they didn't just need therapy. They needed other parents who understood their very specific grief. And when they came together, they weren't just sharing stories, they were creating a movement.
And that movement all along has been pushing legislation. Don't you see? The timing is not coincidental. Now, this Fugazi Parents Network just so happens to be partnered with 2 UK charities that had heavy influence in getting that online safety bill passed in the UK. Like, how stupid do you think people are, Meghan?
And they do it quite well. Utilizing trauma-informed practices, parents created strong bonds and offered healing support through community. They turned their grief into advocacy. And when they let love fuel their fight for change, we saw tremendous impact.
Is the Online Safety Act as well as the Take It Down Act here in the United States. In addition, and that tremendous amount of impact we're talking about is the Online Safety Bill as well as the Take It Down Act here in the United States. In the pipeline, they envision seeing across all 50 states legislation being passed for age verification as well as being open and transparent about user data. This is where they're going, folks, and Harry and Meghan, as well as other globalists such as the Omadar Network and the Bill and Melinda Gates, or Melinda Gates's nonprofit charity called Luminate, have been funding in order to get these types of legislations passed because it's the data that they want, and as well as to curb speech. And so many people think that Harry and Meghan have no influence or make any kind of impact here based off of all the other distractions that they're throwing at us to get us to not focus on the real work that they're doing, which is this. This witch wants to see people getting locked up here in the United States for speech. You can bet on it. It's happening in the UK, and they want the same thing to happen here in the United States.
This community power is crucial to protect our children's mental health online. And we partnered with Girls Inc. for a program called Half the Story to reach young girls in underserved communities.
Again, it's always the vulnerable that these two prey on.
We were addressing everything from body image to online safety. We saw the same thing happen. They weren't just learning about digital wellness. They were creating communities of absolute resilience.
You know, words that Harry and Meghan overuse and have ruined for me because it's tied to socialist Marxist mindset are community, resilience, solution, compassion, joy. I mean, they just put it in a rotation and then just spit out this word salad garbage.
So the conversation that you're about to hear will help us better understand the scale of what we're facing and, more importantly, what we can do about it. Because while the research is sobering, the solutions, as we've seen firsthand in the past 2 years with these very brave and resilient parents, the solutions are within reach, especially when parents, advocates, and communities all come together.
And that means, in a roundabout way, pushing the legislation, because you need all of those components in order to get the end result that Harry and Meghan and those globalists want. All those stupid reports that these organizations create end up being sources of reference for a lot of these bills that get passed through. You see that Aspen Commission on Information Disorder report that they did showed up in many hearings all around the world that are trying to push this legislation on the internet. How many reports have Harry and Meghan funded? They funded quite a lot, and I'm sure we're going to get another report sponsored by Jory Craig from ISD. Yeah, I think a big reason why Meghan Markle acts as if she's untouchable is because either she's got blackmail on some really powerful people, or we've got people like the king, as well as someone in the US government protecting her. And that's the honest feeling that I have here. And I do believe that Meghan's ambition, really at the end of the day, is to get into a powerful position because this woman craves attention and craves having the power. And that, to me, my friend, scares me the most because I think she is one of the most dangerous people on this planet. People don't see it because they see her as a bimbo, but, I think that's all by design. But it is concerning that more people are not talking about the political aspect of it. Like, what's so conspiracy about this? Because the mainstream media is not talking about it? Well, I wouldn't wait on them to begin talking about it because they'll never talk about it since they are complicit in it. We have this UK prince who has been in the United States for the last 5 years meddling and interfering with American civil liberties in trying to get them eroded. I don't know what it's going to take to get the government to deport this guy, but clearly he is an enemy of this nation. The final thought that I'd like to leave everybody on really is a message to Prince Harry. This is my country. You are a guest here. And what you have done to not only me and other Americans in taking away their right to speech as well as their right to earn is unforgivable. And I'm going to continue to keep shining this light until I see you deported. That is my promise. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.